What EQs do you use in mastering and why? So I've got a couple of EQs that I use. Actually, there's 3 EQs that I use. And one of them is the Wes Audio Tube EQ, which you'll see at the top here. Behind me here, I've got the Hendy Amps Michelangelo XL. And then I also have the Bettermaker Mastering EQ. Now, the 3 of those are all very unique in their own way. You got the Tube EQ, the best EQ ever made, in my opinion. That is the best compressor, the best EQ you will ever hear, you will ever use. Arguably, you could say there's other EQs that can sound a bit better, you know, can sound more unique, let's say, and have a different sound to them, but they're all just a different sound. The one thing with the Tube EQ that's incredible is the plug-in aspect of it, the digital recall, and the fact that you can use, when using the plug-in, you can use it in a slightly different way. So you can use it in a way that you're looking at it more like you are when looking at a plug-in. So if you want to use it like a piece of hardware, get on it, use it like a piece of hardware. But if you want to use it like you would FabFilter Pro Q4, for instance, or any other kind of EQ that looks very similar to that, you can use it like that, and you can get really very detailed with it. There's so many features with it, and there's things like solo in a band. You know, this was unheard of with analog hardware, and they cracked it with the Tube EQ. It is by far, in my opinion, it is by far the best EQ on the market. The other EQ that I use is the Hendy Amps Michelangelo XL. Now, this is one that both myself and Nick designed, and we went to Chris with a kind of idea and a concept of what we wanted, and Chris came back with the Michelangelo XL. Now, the Michelangelo standard version is just a nice EQ with low band, mid band, high band, and an air band. So it's got 4 bands, and you can either have it as a MOSFET or you can have it as a Tube EQ, and they both sound great. The MOSFET, a little bit more like saturation. The Tube EQ, a little bit cleaner. The concept that we came up with there is that we wanted 2 EQs parallel to each other, running parallel to each other. And what you could basically do is you could increase, let's say, the saturation amount, and then obviously the volume kind of increases as you increase that saturation amount, and then you could attenuate it with the nice clean EQ. So you could get this kind of filling out effect. That was the concept behind it, and it developed into this EQ that's unbelievable in terms of tone. Now, if you've heard any of the audio examples we put together for it, you'll hear you cannot make a wrong choice with it. You can drive this thing and push the gain on it, and it just sounds better and better and better. Everything you do with it just sounds amazing. It's one of those EQs where you just cannot do anything wrong with it. You can push the high end and it just sounds better and better the more you push it. The low end sounds really lovely and punchy. The MOSFET EQ gets really punchy, and you can get that kick drum, for instance, really smashing through the mix. And this is why I use that EQ. Now, it's a relatively unique EQ. I don't know many people who have them, but they are available. You can buy them. Yeah, it was kind of our concept and design that we went to Chris with, and Chris came back with something special, and it really was a special EQ. And yeah, so that's our kind of, that's what we've got. I've got one in here, and Nick's got his one in Studio A as well. But the reason I use that is it's like what I would class as my color EQ. It's very much this EQ that I can. It doesn't have to be clean. It can be dirty. It can be saturated. It can be thick and just have all this color to it. or I can make it very, very subtly kind of clean and lovely by just using the tube EQ side of it. And it's an incredible EQ. But the other EQ that I use is the complete opposite, which is the Bettermaker EQ, the Bettermaker Mastering EQ. That's super clean. That is more, what I consider that as, is more like a surgical EQ. That's more about just kind of being very surgical, being very precise, and making EQ changes that are required to be very clean. I don't want to add any saturation. I don't want to add any color. I just want very clean, precise EQ. Now, some people would say, well, we'll go back in the box to do that. Yeah, I go back in the box to do that similar style of EQ. But what I do with the Bettermaker EQ is I position it in the chain where it needs to do that surgical EQ before other pieces of gear. So it has a very specific purpose at a very specific point in the chain. The other thing that to mention is that when mastering, I've got those 3 EQs. Now, the tube EQ, that has mid-side. So I will often, and 9 out of 10 times, that will stay in mid-side. And that will be my mid-side EQ. And that the reason for that is because the other 2, the Bettermaker has mid-side as well built into it. But the Hendy Amps Michelangelo EQ, that's just a standard stereo EQ. That hasn't got mid-side. So I can't run that in mid-side. So it hasn't got dual mono. Some people think it's dual mono, like the top rack being left and the bottom rack being right, but it's not. They're 2 EQs that are still stereo. So I will use that majority of the time as a mid-side EQ with the tube EQ. So yeah, they're the 3 EQs that I use, and they're the perfect combination for me. Now, the Hendy Amps Michelangelo XL is the one. There's 2 pieces of gear in this studio that aren't digitally recallable, and that's the Hum Audio Low, which is the limiter, and the Hendy Amps Michelangelo XL. And the reason I've still got those in here, even though they aren't digitally recallable, is because the Hendy Amps has such a unique sound that I can't let go of it. And I tried to take it out of the studio and go, no, I'm not going to use it because it's not digitally recallable. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to get the Black Box HGQ and I'll replace it with that. And that's digitally recallable. But then I really, as soon as I removed it, I really miss it. I miss that sound, that tone, that beautiful sound that it gives me. And it has this box tone that's unbelievable as well. So I brought it back in. And I'm glad I did. And the thing with it in mastering when it comes to digital recall is mastering, you don't need to do that many recalls. But what I'll do is when I need to recall the Hendy Amps Michelangelo, what I'll do, I'll show you quickly. What I'll do is, you can see behind me here, I'll use the plugin. Now, I use the plugin. I save all the settings into that plugin, and then I match them to the hardware. So I have the settings saved in the session via a picture that is the plugin version. And that's a really good way of recalling your gear. So they're the 3 pieces of gear that I use when mastering. And yeah, the combination of the 3 I love. Would I add the Black Box HGQ? Yes, I would. I'd happily add it. I need to test that first. I need to have a go on it first. What I need to do is I need to check. I need to double check and make sure that the connection between the computer and the software all works well and it's flawless. Because the thing with it is, and I know obviously this isn't the subject we're talking about here, but I might as well add it on the end here, is when you're buying digitally recallable equipment, it's really important that the digital recall works flawlessly. And I've had in the past where I've bought stuff early and the digital recall, like I was like one of the first to buy the gear, and the digital recall and the software wasn't quite ready yet, or it was ready to go out, it just wasn't flawless, and that does take time. It takes a little bit of beta testing, and he obviously can't do as much beta testing as when it's out bought by a load of people and they get a lot of kind of feedback from how it reacts with on various different systems. So what I may do is I may wait for the HGQ to be developed in the software side, wait for a few updates, make sure it's stable, and then I might get one. But yeah, it's quite an expensive EQ for what it is, but I do like the look of it. I like the sound of the plugin, and I maybe get one. I may get one. But at the moment, I've got the Wes Audio Tube EQ, I've got the Bettermaker Mastering EQ, and I've got the Hendy Amps Michelangelo XL EQ.